Okay, I redesigned my workbench to include an adjustable rotating shelf for the miter saw. But before I take apart my workbench to include the shelf, I first made this prototype out of scrap wood. I also made this bracing that holds the shelf and connects it to the workbench with these 3/4 inch black iron pipe and these flanges. So I did all this to help understand what I was getting myself into and hopefully learn something. Well, I did. I learned 3 things. 1. Not all flanges are equal. This one rocks back and forth when compared to this one. So if anyone ever builds a rotating shelf using flanges, root around in the box for some good ones. 2. I made this shelf to be adjustable in many ways. When I went to adjust it, there wasn't enough room. And finally, 3. This angle. It allows the shelf to rotate unimpeded. And the first time I tried to rotate it, it didn't. Well, that's enough. And let's get into the build. Well, actually, it's the opposite. This new design calls for 9 legs, so I need one more. And it just so happens that I made a mistake on one of the legs in my first video. I tried to fix it. Long story short, it ended up on my shelf for another day. Well, off the shelf it comes, cause that day's today. I think that leg is determined to be a part of my workbench. I'll just take this time to mention for any of the products I use if you're interested. I'll leave a link in the description below. Well, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and it kind of reminds me that nothing is perfect, and there's usually a way to overcome my mistakes. For this next part, I'll be using a dado blade to cut in a rabbet joint for this new leg. I learned something about making this cut from a comment on my last video. Instead of one cut at full depth, it's safer to build up to the depth you want by making multiple passes, raising the blade each time until you reach your desired depth. As I'm fastening these legs to the assembly, I had the idea to place a straight edge across the top, just to check the fit. But things looked pretty good until I got to the new leg. There's a pretty good gap when compared to the rest. You may already know, but if not, I'll introduce you to the power of a playing card. They are really handy. I'll use it as a shim to close that gap and bring it in line with the others. Now I'll modify the lower shelf to accommodate the new location of an existing leg and the addition of a new leg. And since I'm here, I might as well fill the hole where one of the legs used to be. And with the lower shelf now complete, I'll take this time to level the assembly using the leveling casters I installed earlier. and this will help to ensure the upper stretchers are just as level as the base. I needed one more piece of wood for the upper bracing, but all I had was this warped one, and I don't have a joiner, so I'll place shims around it so it doesn't rock. Then secure it with tape so it doesn't move. Now I need 2 rails, so I'll cut this old floorboard in half, and clamp these scraps to both rails, keeping them vertical. Then I'll use my router sled to slide across the rails. I won't show you how I made it, there's a ton of them out there. Just search YouTube for it. And now that I have one flat surface, I'll run it through my planer. Now I have to fix the sides that aren't level or straight. Again, I don't have a joiner, but I do have a long level. I'll place the board against the level, and I'll slide the level against the fence. This makes a straight cut. Oh, this only works if the board is shorter than the level. So this is one of the more challenging parts of the build. I'm excited because I'll be using my router, and I'm nervous because I'll be using my router. So I start the cut, and watch what happens. Right here. Well, I carried on and finished. And to be honest, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out, but what I wasn't happy with was the amount of tear out I had from this cut. And after looking at it, and the rotation of the bit, and the direction of the grain, I can see that it's going to tear bits of wood out. And I thought, what if I place a piece of wood before that cut? It should prevent it from tear out, just like I noticed it did here. Well, armed with a bit of knowledge and another brace to do, I'll try again, but this time with a piece of wood before the cut.
Before the cut.
Well, I think that looks better. And there's no tear out. If anyone's wondering why I made these braces out of 2 2x4s instead of a 2x6, it's because I didn't have a bit that was long enough to drill these pilot holes. Now I'll drill the holes in the braces for the iron pipe to slide through. They don't need to be as accurate as the holes in the shelf itself. And now that they're done, I'll fasten this brace and this brace as parallel as I can so the shelf can rotate freely. And I might as well check for level. But just so you know, I screwed those two sheets of plywood together, so when I actually cut the top of the shelf out, they'll both be exactly the same size. Now that the top is done, I can get to work on the shelf itself. I've been at this for a while. I'm hungry. Oh, it's lunchtime. I didn't leave that there. Interesting. Well, now that lunchtime is over, I need to find a location and pre-drill holes for 4-threaded rods. You'll see what these rods do later. I'll just pre-drill. And countersink. So I can fasten these 2 sheets of plywood together with screws later on. So now we have our 4 threaded rods. My next challenge was, how am I going to secure them in this sheet of wood? And I really struggled with this. Until one night, where I had a dream. I think I heard waves, and I was walking on a beach, and my feet looked pretty weird. And then I think I came upon this large rock. And on this rock was my shelf, with 4 threaded rods in it, and it looked like they were in there pretty good. Well, in the morning when I woke up, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Well, after coffee, I got back to work. And what I realized is I was thinking of this top as one solid piece of wood. But in reality, it's just 2 pieces screwed together. And that's when I realized I could hide a bolt and a washer inside one of those sheets of plywood. Now that I know how to secure the threaded rod, I can get to work and turn this shelf into something that's real. You know, I'm nervous. I've been looking forward to placing the shelf for a long time, and I'm hoping there's no surprises. Hold on, I forgot something. These screws. They'll help level the table. Okay, let's try this again. I might be able to place this better without that shelf in here. And some help from this guy, my dad. Now I know this thing is going in. Victory! That was short-lived, because I forgot these. Washers. They'll help keep the shelf in place. Well, now that the shelf is placed, it's time to work on the iron pipe. It took a bit of effort to cut all the way through, but I was determined to make it happen. By widening these holes on the flange, it'll provide more room for adjustment when I install them later on. And I'm starting to get pretty nervous about now. Because we're going to try and rotate this shelf for the first time. And I'm hoping it goes smoothly.
Okay, let's give it a try. Wow!
Nice, eh? Woo! Bring it back out again. Check and see how it fits again. Beautiful. Wow, very nice.
My dad is my inspiration. As a kid, I'd loved messing about in his workshop. And he's now here messing about in mine. I don't get to see him or my amazing mom as often as I'd like. And today's a sad day because they'll be returning home. And I'm already looking forward to our next visit together. The screws that I'm adjusting now towards the outside of the bench help level the shelf in its open position. And the screws that I'm adjusting now towards the inside of the bench help level the shelf in its stowed position. I'll install some latches now to keep the shelf in place, but most latches they're quite loose, and I wanted a latch with little to no movement, so I ordered a bunch of them, and I found this one. It was the tightest of them all. I used a marker on the end of the pin, then pressed it against the shelf. Now I'll know where to drill. Then I made a jig with some clamps and a piece of wood to align with the mark and help drill a hole at 90 degrees, with a little help from Anna. She's my better half.
Is that good? That looks good.
And this part was enjoyable. Leveling my miter saw with a straight edge and a single playing card. I think now is a good time to put my table saw back, because there's just a couple more things to do. One is to install this faceplate onto the front of the shelf. And cut some miter slots. Well, I hope you enjoyed my workbench journey with me. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And if you're interested in building something like my workbench, I'll have the plans available. Just check for them in the description below. If you like what you see, please subscribe, hit the like button, and thanks a lot for watching.